Unmute.
Okay, I want to welcome all of you to our first town hall meeting. I know this is something that people, our citizens, have requested for quite a long time. Our goal is to have a town hall meeting every other council meeting. And then a business meeting like this meeting, a town hall meeting, and then our regular council meeting. And then the next meeting will be a business meeting or a special meeting. Is that the correct term, Darren? Covering business up before the council meeting?
That would be a workshop.
Workshop. So there's just a lot of stuff happening, a lot of information, and we want to get it out to you as soon as we can. And so I appreciate everyone being here tonight. It means a lot. Our goal this year, I'm a new mayor, totally new at all of this. Kind of hit the ground running, had no idea how hard I was going to hit this ground. And I think we're all learning how I operate, which is, I think, been challenging for our department heads, but we're working together and I have amazing people to work with. And so as we transition through a very challenging year, I think communication is really key. And so we welcome all of you tonight. One of the things I want to add, social media is going to continue. It's out there. It can be positive. It can have a great impact on our community, or it can be negative. And the sad part is we've gone through a year of very negative social media. I want to invite people, if you have a question or if you're unhappy with something, come to the table. Come and talk to us. I have not turned anyone away. You want to talk to me, I will meet you where you want to meet me, as will the rest of this group of your city officials. We are here. We will talk to you. The thing about social media, we are going to be working diligently trying to bring people into our community. As a business person, if I was going to invest in this community, I would be checking every aspect of it. And that means looking at social media sites, and how we portray this city. People are going to think twice if all they see is negative comments. If you have a question, if you don't agree with how we're doing business, please come to the table, be part of the solution. That's what we want. And so I just want to encourage you to do that, okay? So with that said, we'll go ahead and start. We will do the flag salute when we go into the council meeting. And then right now we are going to, the next thing is that Darren will be doing and the reason we're doing, the other thing I wanted to add about social media, we're not going to comment on your posts. We may read them, but we're not going to comment. We're not supposed to comment. So I want to let you know that right up front. It's interesting reading your posts because it gives us some insight, especially when it's constructive, about what you want to hear, about what you're looking at, what your thoughts are. And so with that said, there was a lot of conversation happening about water rates. So I went to Darren, and as I said, I've got great people to work with. I said, please put together a PowerPoint. Sometimes it's hard to really understand unless you have a visual. And so with that said, tonight, Darren has put together a PowerPoint to kind of show you comparisons and why we are where we're at with our water. So these are questions that came to us that we wanted to answer at the town hall meeting tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Next slide, please. And so this is not to talk about any rate increases. This is just to talk about the history of our utility rates and utility taxes and EMS fees from 2019 through 2024.
It's not going.
Not going.
Not going. It's Jared's fault. It's actually, we'll blame it on, there.
There we go.
There we go, finally.
Okay, so you can see the years 2019 through 24, and it's broke down into the 5 different sections. I created a blue line for Cosmopolis, green for Aberdeen, and red for Hoquiam. And in some of the years, we just didn't have the data, so that's not included. Like for Hoquiam, we didn't have 2019. But as you can see, the water up top, we are generally substantially less than our neighbors, and we buy the water from Aberdeen. Once we buy it, then we have to send it through our distribution system. That covers our the main lines, our fire hydrants, our valves, our metering, our pumps, our electricity, our fuel, and the guy's labor. So, even though the rates have gone up substantially, and I know everybody's been impacted, and we feel, how bad it's impacting you. I've heard from a lot of folks that it is, unfortunately, some months, it's the choice of eating or heating their home. It's tough, and we get that. So some of the things on water that we've done to keep the rates down and lower than our neighbors is we've cut, positions out of that department when the mill closed down from warehouse. There was 3 positions that were primarily out of the utilities that we never have gotten back. The other things that were done recently was we installed new pumps, booster pumps up on the hills, and those now run about $200 to $250 a month to operate, where before they were running close to $800. So that's saving quite a bit of money. The new meters that we installed, those are not only helping the city because they read more accurately, but they also can be read right from City Hall. Nobody has to go out and read those in the field anymore. And then like when we had this cold weather here, less than a month ago, how many different leaks did we see? It will actually alert Cheryl at her desk that somebody has got a leak that we need to see, okay, is it a leak or they're using just a lot of water? And so we were able to get a hold of a lot of citizens and say, hey, we think you've got a leak. You may want to check. Well, yeah, we found one. So they were able to get it turned off and repaired right away to save them a ton of money. It's saved, Jeff and his crew a lot of time, especially when you get a home that sells. We have to go out and do a final read, for the accounting, for the previous owner to the incoming owner to make sure all the utility accounts are transferred over accordingly. They don't have to do that anymore. That can all be done from City Hall. So those are some things that we've done to increase efficiencies, to keep the costs down. Sewer, that's where we've taken the biggest hit. And most of it is from the city of Aberdeen. They were required by the State Department of Ecology to do a major upgrade to their sewer treatment plant. That project just went out to bid this last month for a little over $18 million. Our share of that was an increase from about from 2019 through now of 10% per year. Our comprehensive water system plan, it says in there through the financial viability study that we should be raising our rates in Cosmopolis 3% per year to keep up with inflation. We have been able to not have to do that from cost-cutting measures that we have done. Some of it, like I said, was through staff. Some of it's through increasing efficiencies with pumps, meters, things like that. On the sewer side, we're quite a bit more limited. There's some upgrades we want to do there, but they're just simply going to have to wait. We have been able to cut some costs there rather than increase our portion to the citizens. So the increases you're seeing are primarily being passed through right to Aberdeen. We're not putting anything really into our pocket, even with inflation going up over 9% in 2023. So you'll see in 2019, we were about $4 a month more in sewer than Aberdeen. 2020, with that 10% increase, well, we jumped up to where we're, $9 plus over City of Aberdeen. And the reason I'm comparing primarily to Aberdeen. Yeah, we buy our water from them and they treat our sewage as well. So that's why we're directly tied to them. Hokum is just more of as a reference, as a neighbor, just to see where they compare. 2020, Aberdeen took a big hit on their side, 2021 rather, and so they started to catch up to us that year. So we were able to hold off with some other cost savings we had. 2022, we jumped up another 5% plus. So we were, just still 48 cents a month more than Aberdeen. 2023, we're 53 cents more than Aberdeen. And then in 2024, we're $1.18 more than Aberdeen. So those costs are extremely high. We know that, feel bad about it, but we're really at their mercy of the treatment costs. We've looked into it a few times over the years, and I think the latest was about 15 years ago, what our own treatment plant would cost. And back then it would be $10 to $12 million to build one for our capacity. And then you're talking at least 3 more employees because of happen to have certified treatment plant operators. So there really isn't a cheaper way to do that. I'll back up to water a bit. We have drilled one well that we hope to be getting online later this year that could bring in up to 4% for up to 5 months out of the year of our own water into our system, which we're not then paying the city of Aberdeen for. It's not going to be a huge cost savings, but it's going to help control the rates a little bit. And the reason I say we can only do it for 5 months out of the year is because our water rights that we were granted from Department of Ecology restrict us to those 5 months out of the year. And we're hoping over time we'll be able to show we're not impacting the aquifer to where we'll be able to do that annually or year round. And we hope to drill 2 or 3 more wells to be able to get up. Our goal is at some point to get to 10 to 15%, possibly 20 at some point of our own water source, which would then really help not only us, but the city of Aberdeen with supply issues on this side of the river. Stormwater, we enacted our rates, and actually the stormwater utility in 2023. So we started out with a rate of $7.60 per month. That is to maintain the stormwater main lines, the stormwater manholes, the catch basins, the roadside ditches. It was used to improve the roadway up on top of Alder Drive and Mill Creek Drive this past year. Those were the first 2 big projects done with that. We basically took the first year of revenue and set it aside into a reserve. So we're basically using now money we collected through the 2023. 2024, you'll see the increase to $7.83, and that is tied to the annual cost of living, this CPI index that's built into the rate ordinance. So we were late to the game, starting our utility in 2023, where others have been doing this from 2019 and 20. And as you can see, we're substantially less, which that's something we're proud of, and I'm not sure why the other cities are that high. I don't know. So it's really hard to compare to them, but it is something, annually there'll be a CPI increase. If it's 2%, then it's 2%, but it's limited. This last year, what was the total amount on that one? What did we end up for the average?
The CPI?
Yes, because it came out in July, is that correct?
It's June.
June, okay.
June CPI, I think it was right around 3%.
Yeah, so
It was
it
pretty close to
didn't
that.
hit when we hit the peak level throughout 2023. So that is good, because that would have been substantially worse than that. So part of the other things you see that drive your utility rates, your monthly bill up, and people are not aware that it's not just the water rate or just the sewer or the storm. There's other things associated. Now, the utility tax. We started in 2019 with 11% utility tax. That's on your water, your sewer, and now the stormwater. 6% of that was to go into the street fund to help with annual maintenance. and then a portion of that was to go into the equipment reserve fund. And so that's the way it was in 2019. In 2020, it then changed to add 2.5% on top of the 6% for street. And the other amount that goes into equipment reserve, that part goes into the fire truck equipment fund. What that does is pay for a portion of the payment for the new fire truck. And so that remained the same through 2024. As you can, in Aberdeen, we were not able to get their rates, so we don't know what it is for them for their utility tax. For City of Hoquiam, they were 12% from 2020 to 2023, and then this year it increased to 15%. Now the last section is the EMS fee, and we'll show you graphs after this is done that just kind of compares in another visual of how these compare to each other. So the EMS fee, that's what we were paying for ambulance availability up until 2021, where we were paying $6.75 per household. Back in 2019, we paid 9% per household. And so a big user of water was paying quite a bit more than your neighbor who may have used half of that amount. So it wasn't really equitable. So Julian went through and looked at how this worked out on the average ratepayer, and some of you were paying way more than you should have been. So this was then changed to where it's a flat rate, it's more equitable. That way, everybody is basically paying the same except for the larger utility users like Cosmo and also the RV park. So in 2022, when we started to have to pay the City of Aberdeen for EMS availability, we raised that up to $18 per month. And that was when they were charging us more so like basically $27.96. The city was paying the rest of that out of the general fund, and eating a majority of that. We did that through 2023 to where it got to the point we just couldn't afford to do that anymore, with our general fund being impacted, with Cosmo being down, which is about 60% of our general fund revenue. That put us in a dire situation to where you can't just make up 60% of revenue lost and also pay that bill. So in 2024, you see the big jump up to $27.96 per month. So that, you see that from 2000 to 2024, that is a major increase that you've seen. You've seen a huge increase in sewer. You've seen the added stormwater utility, and then, the increase in water is more proportionate, but all of those things combined are what have really impacted you. So you can go to the next slide, please.
Maybe. It doesn't like me. I think it's Darren's fault. Come on. It's not going. Come on.
Look on the screen where it is presented.
I'm trying, but it's not doing it there either. Come on. See, it doesn't. Come on. It's not going. Hold on. He's gonna take a look if it's not. It doesn't like.
So
Darren's
basically what we're trying to show you is graphs for each 5 sections, and it just kind of helps give you a different visual of the impact that it's been to you as ratepayers for all of those different categories.
And I would say this is a great breakdown of showing what we're paying compared to other cities. I hear a lot of comments and questions. Why are we paying so much? And I wanted to know that too. I'm a citizen, just like the rest of you, paying the same rate. And I think it really gives a very visual breakdown of what we're paying and why we're paying it. And we're not, in some areas, we're actually better than other cities, but very comparable too, so.
So with the water, the base fee here, the blue line on the bottom is Cosmopolis, the orange line is Aberdeen, and the green line is Hoquiam. So you can see where Cosmopolis and Aberdeen pretty well trend together. Hoquiam had some major upgrades to their system that they're paying for, so they have a little bit steeper curve there. We've been able to stay pretty much parallel with the increase from the city of Aberdeen, so that is something that we're happy that we're not increasing quicker than them. We would love to see it increasing slower than them, and that's the goal we keep trying to get to. Next, please. So sewer, this is, again, on the left was Cosmopolis, orange is Aberdeen, and green is Hoquiam. And that's 2019 from the left to 2024 on the right. And so, again, Cosmopolis and Aberdeen are pretty proportionate. Hoquiam is substantially cheaper. Their treatment costs and their upgrades to their system, I think, have been done already, so that their impact wasn't as steep. And we know after this year, we should not be seeing this 10% per year increase. So this should be leveling off with that project that Aberdeen has just now taken on for the sewer treatment plant. So hopefully that will start tapering off where things will catch up a little bit. Next, please. So stormwater here, you will see again on the bottom, blue is Cosmopolis, orange is Aberdeen, and green is the city of Hoquiam. You know, we started in 2022, what was sometime early in 2022 is when we started. And so we got up to 2023 was our rate. Gosh, we did start 2023. That's
The ordinance was passed in 22,
correct. Okay.
effective January 1, 23.
So you'll see where we leveled off. Aberdeen is kind of leveled off, and Hoquiam has just taken a big increase there. And a lot of that is for pump maintenance. They've got a lot of big stormwater pumps. Same with the city of Aberdeen, that they have to maintain that at this point we don't have. And those are some of the things we're looking at with the comprehensive stormwater plan to see if that's going to be a need for Cosmopolis going forward. Next, please. So the utility tax here is Cosmopolis is in blue, Aberdeen is in orange, and Hoquiam is in green. So you'll see, you know, where we're up there. It's not where we'd like to be, but it is 6%, like I said, going into sewer, or rather street, because the state shared gas tax revenue that goes into street is pretty much non-existent anymore. It is pretty much all grant funds that you've got to compete for with state TIB, or it's gone into other programs that it's just not a monthly guarantee or yearly guarantee anymore. So we've had to take that hit. The other thing, you know, when we created the equipment reserve fund, you know, from 2017 on, that bought a lot of the equipment you see. But in 2023, because of the mill closing down, we had to take that money that was going into the equipment reserve fund and put it into the general fund to help balance the account. Then the 2.5% that goes into paying for the fire truck, which only covers about
Covers 3 of the 4 payments.
3 of the 4 payments per year. So we've got one that we're making up out of the general fund. Next, please. So here's the EMS fee. That was the last on the spreadsheet that you saw, the last item. So again, we're blue, Aberdeen orange, and Hoquiam is green. And since we're directly tied to Aberdeen and we get our EMS ambulance service from them, you know, in 2022 and 2023, you see the raise to $18 per month. And that's when we were covering a little over $10 per month out of the general fund. Well, 2024, we could no longer afford to do that. So that's where we meet with Aberdeen up at the point there. So that's been a big increase to everybody. And we realize that. We're hoping to get something taken care of with that fairly soon. I know the chief's working on it very hard. Hoquiam just had to take a large increase on that, and that was due to some expenses and with the RFA not passing, those were some expenses they knew that were hanging out there. And Aberdeen is going to be doing that here very shortly. They're finishing up their utility rate study for EMS, and that should be done, what, Nick, about April or May?
It'll be on the March agenda for.
March agenda, so that will be taking a large hit. So that's pretty much all I've got for utilities. It's an industry standard, you know, with Department of Health and Ecology, like for utility rates. You know, some cities charge the total amount of all utility rates, a 1% amount of your median household income. Well, they suggested 2%. And then they said 2% is average, 3% is suggested. We're between about 2.6 and 2.7%. So thankfully, we're not way out of line. We'd like to be in a lower percentage, and you know, we're doing our best to get there. But we are, you know, within industry standards, so that is one thing we're very happy about. With that, that's the end of my presentation.
So with that said, tonight, with the questions about water rates and why they're so high, we're gonna have that in just a moment. We thought, how can we help our citizens? What are resources? And so we've been talking about that and our agencies that can provide some support. So tonight, Michelle, would you like to stand up, introduce yourself, and talk about some of the services that may help our citizens?
Sure, thank you. Hi, I'm Michelle Fogus. I'm a planner and program development manager at the Olympic Area Agency on Aging, O3A. You might know us as Information and Assistance. And we have a number of programs and resources. What I've been noticing is there's very few people from COSI taking advantage of those. I assume it's because maybe people don't know what we have to offer. We are located in Aberdeen. We share a parking lot with the Dollar Tree, so we're very close by. Most of our services are directed to people age 60 and over, adults 18 and over with disabilities, and family caregivers. That said, we do have some services that don't have age or income requirements. Okay, so I'm going to go over quickly just kind of the main things we provide, and then I wanted to talk specifically about one that can possibly help some people with water bill relief or other emergent needs. So our main thing is information assistance. If you are over 60, have a disability, family caregiver, call us. We're kind of a one-stop shop for information. We can help with state things like SNAP and LIHEAP. We have a number of our own programs. We can help you get signed up for coastal CAP programs, things like that. We have SHIBA, which is free information about Medicare. So, and that is not income dependent. If you are on Medicare during open enrollment, or if you suddenly go on to Medicare for the first time, you can go get information about the best plans for your needs. We have SLAC, which is free legal assistance. If you're 60 and over, it's by appointment. They can help with civil things, wills, powers of attorney, guardianships, that kind of thing. Caregiver support, particularly we have a new program. If you are raising a relative's child, we have some support for that now, including small financial assistance. We have Medicaid long-term care, so in-home caregivers for people who need assistance with activities of daily living, showering, meal preparation, medication. We contract for senior nutrition, which would be your congregate meals, your home delivered meals, things that senior centers usually. Long-term care ombuds program, which is for people in facilities. So if you have someone in assisted living, a nursing home, and they need advocacy, there's a program for that. We have a new dementia program that hopefully you'll be hearing about, and it's to provide training, resources, information, support. And the last thing is our Senior Emergency Fund. So this is funded by a grant from from Grace Harbor Community Foundation. It provides one-time-a-year assistance for people over 60 for an emergent need, so something you can't pay for in any other way. The majority of people using the fund are getting it for utility assistance. So if you have a water bill that you cannot pay, an electric bill, whatever, you can call us, and if you have no other way to pay it, and we have funds available, we will help with that. It's also used for things like installing grab bars, unsafe porch and railing that need to be repaired. We've pumped out people's RVs, so it's there's no real restriction on the kind of emergent need that we can fund. I've got some information on the back table if you want. My card is there, you're welcome to call me. The other card that's there is Karna, who is our absolutely amazing receptionist that knows everything and everybody, and she'll get you to the right person, but I am happy to help. The other thing I wanted to just mention, sadly our slideshow does not work today. We have a project called the MAV, which is our mobile unit. So it goes mostly to outlying areas in Grays Harbor and 3 other counties. It provides food, COVID mitigation supplies, so masks, rapid tests, and a wide array of resources, so they can actually help you sign up for SNAP or LIHEAP or whatever. And we are trying to arrange to have it come to COSI hopefully next month. It would just be a one-time event here. Obviously, if we get that lined up, we'll try to get the word out on all the social media, the post office, etc. Meanwhile, there is a schedule in the back of where the MAV is going over the next couple months. We do have a regular monthly stop in Raymond, Oakville, Ocean Shores, Westport. Those are probably the closest. I'm happy to answer any questions after if anyone has any. So,
Thank you, Michelle. So that's our goal when we do the town hall meetings. When you give us questions and we want to address a topic that seems to be a real priority, bring in some resources that we haven't really used in our community to support you as citizens. And now we're going to move on to the Q&A, the question part of it. I'd like you to say your name, your address, and I was like, oh, okay, what are we going to do for timers? So this is my new little timer, 3 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and start it, and please.
Cheryl Turner, 825 and a half Second Street. Julie or Darren, the presentation was great, but it didn't show what the per cubic foot rate was. So that is what?
Let me grab that for you real quick. The reason I didn't put that into the graphs, because it varies so much.
Yeah.
I can pull that up
So
here.
FYI though, that means that everybody is going to be different. So if they look at their water bill and it's $50 and not the 32 or whatever, then it's the cubic foot rate. Some people didn't even know how much a cubic foot was, like 7.9.
At 7.485 gallons.
Yeah. So, and also the meters on different places cost different. So like a 3-inch meter or like the RV park are charged differently than.
Yes, 1 inch is, we only have less than.
That was 3/4 inch.
That was 3/4. That's the residential rate, and that's what most people are concerned about. So your per cubic foot rate is 0.0476 per cubic foot. So in essence, that's $4.76 per 100 cubic feet. That is roughly about 750 gallons per month. And so an average home at Cosmopolis is using 350 to 450 gallons. A larger family, you're going to be using about 1,200 gallons, or 1,200 cubic feet rather per month. So your bill's going to be substantially higher. So we could have done some more spreadsheets based upon different scenarios.
No, I just seen, comments about, and this is again, social media crap, but like, the RV park and how much was paid for their meters. Julie, I don't know if you have that on your thing.
Their base
I
rate
don't,
was
I would have
set
to do some digging to pull
by
it up.
an industry standard from Department of Health.
No,
by-
just her meter, just a base meter.
Yes, and that's what I'm talking about. It was set by an industry standard through Department of Health by equivalent residential units, just like the pulp mills over there. You take the average of what would be like a full-time person there over 24 hours a day, And especially down there because the occupancy is gonna vary throughout the year. So we came up with what we thought would be the best overall average per year. Now, that is something that will be continued to be monitored. You know, if we see there's a higher average occupancy over time, then that will have to be adjusted accordingly. But we did Cosmo with every time we do a comprehensive water system plan with our engineers, we go through and look at how many employees are over there on average throughout a 24-hour period, 7 days a week. And that's how their base rate, and one equivalent residential unit is what your base rate is of the $22, well, that was 2019. For 2024, $32.55. So if they had 100 equivalent residential units, that would be 100 times, that'd be $3,200 basically, $3,255. So that would be substantially higher. That right now is the best way we've got to calculate that. Then there's probably other ways. Some cities in their base rate allow you up to a certain amount of usage, like Aberdeen does. I think they allow up to 1,200 cubic feet, but then their per cubic foot rate is substantially less than that. Well, they own the water, you know, they own their own transmission system, where we're buying the raw water, not raw water, treated water from them, and then distributing it. So then our costs on top of that.
Okay, Darren, I think we're at our 3 minutes. Do we have other questions?
So thank you for clarifying, so everybody knows that nobody's getting a special deal on anything, it is what it is.
Right, good question, thank you. Other questions? Yes,
Here's one for Darren. What's the status on the spring cleanup and recycles of grass and brush?
The compost program is gonna be closed until further notice. That simply because that comes out of the general fund. But we have talked about that for a future town hall discussion where we can see, you know, if citizens are willing to pay a little bit, you know, if they're a user, it wouldn't be a flat rate across to everybody. But if people want to use that, the issue is now that stuff will have to be trucked out of town. So that's gonna be a cost that's factored in on top of what we did before.
It's money.
Yeah, but the spring cleanup, we are still discussing that to see if that is gonna go forward. Because that is I think last year was about $1,600.
It varies anywhere from $1,500 to $1,800. I was gonna bring it up during my
Okay,
report
good.
tonight.
Okay.
okay, next question. This is your opportunity. Steve, oh, please state your name, thank you.
Steve Davis, 825 Fifth. I'm curious about policies, public works policies in particular around things like water. So if somebody, a construction project wants to purchase water from the city, in the past, it's been, you know, it hasn't been maybe tracked as well as it could be. We have neighboring citizens that occasionally need water, and they'll bring in tanks and fill them up. We talked about a policy several years ago and last year and things like that. Have we determined a policy that collects the value of that? And then not only for the water, but also for the labor involved to fill up the tanks, take the time with that.
We haven't really created a policy, but we have a special meter for the water filling up. And every month we take it down to the Grove City Hall and they bill it accordingly. I can't answer what they bill accordingly. They would have to do that, but we do track it. We have a clipboard there for the people if we're gone. A lot of the times we're there, we see it come in, we make sure they're good to go and they go with the water. We don't fill their tank up, they fill their own tank up, but we're around. So, yeah, that was something we were working on last year to try to increase that more because they are getting water for a pretty good price, real easy price, and it should be more. That's something we're gonna need to look into and raise the rates of that. I think we have currently about 7 or 8 people coming in right now.
At most.
Well, obviously not this time of year, but really during the spring and summer, so late spring and summer, so. But they have all that tracked at City Hall. We take it from on the pork shelf, down to there, and it's metered, and it's on the, when they read it every month, it's accounted for, so.
Steve Davis, 825 Fifth. So we purchase water from Aberdeen, it comes in, it gets metered at our city limit someplace, and then it gets metered throughout the city. We have leaks, obviously, and we use some, I'm assuming all the city waters are metered at different places, so we have to make some margin on top of the water that we buy in order to pay for the leaks in the system and what the city uses, whether it's for firefighting or whatever it happens to be. How are we doing on leaks? Are we pretty good? Are we losing a lot of water?
The industry standard for unaccounted for water, what you're speaking of is 10%, and very rarely are cities hitting that.
So that's time. Do we have any other questions right now?
I mean, he asked the second question, why didn't he get another 3 minutes?
Oh. Okay. We're working on this timer thing up there, so. Okay, go ahead, continue with your
Steve
question.
Davis, 825 Fifth. So about 10% on the leakage, and
So
we're
we're
within
not,
that.
we're not there yet. And our base rate, that covers our debt service, like for labor, fuel, insurance, electricity, and any debt service we would have, like the water revenue bond for the new line on, which was put in on 3rd Street, I think in 2019, plus the pays for the new water meters. We have a very small margin on the per cubic foot rate because Aberdeen charges us by the per 100 cubic feet after 10,000 cubic feet that's granted, you know, with the base, their base rate to us. So their per 100 cubic feet rate is what they're charging over there is about $2.21 per 100, where we're about $6.71. But that is a sliding rate on theirs as well, because like I said, their base rate of $38.78 includes 1,200 cubic feet. So we can break that down and get more close, but we do have a margin.
Okay. So in the generalization, how healthy is our water system as far as infrastructure? Are we gonna be looking at any big increases for water restoration work on our pipes? I mean, are we pretty good? Are we maybe not so good? Or are we like looking?
We're pretty good on water. We've got hydrants that need to be, you know, there's probably, I'd say about 8 to 10 hydrants we would love to replace. Those aren't gonna get done right away. There are some older pipes, you know, that we would like to replace with larger pipes because they're really too small when they were put in back in the 60s and 70s. Or before that, they were, in some cases, 2-inch lines, but they should be, our minimum development standard size is 6-inch. And if it's a dead end line, it needs to be an 8-inch. And so those are things that need to be done. But as far as the biggest pieces of infrastructure for water, we've taken care of, just, you know.
So now on the same questions with the sewer system, how are we doing on inflow? Our sewage is metered to Aberdeen. Are we getting a lot of water, a lot of inflow water from storm drains?
Yeah, nowhere near like we used to. We used to have about 10%, we were about 10% of Aberdeen's total flow. And that's how part of our bill from Aberdeen is based upon our percentage of their total flow, plus costs of lift station 2 at the bottom of the Shalis River Bridge, as well as treatment costs and their admin costs. We are now probably in the neighborhood of about 5.75 to 6%. The crew has worked very hard over the last 20 years to really tighten up our system. But the first part of your question is, yeah, there's some things, Steve, that need to be done there. And that's upgrading some of the pumps in our lift stations and main pump station. Those are some things we know we can save a lot of money with over time with electricity costs. New pumps are so much more efficient, just like we found out in the water system. So those are things we want to start putting money aside for. And hopefully in the next few years, start picking a few of those off at a time. So we don't have to hit the citizens with a 10% increase like what happened with Aberdeen. If that was an expense from us, just like the 3rd Street water main, when we did that and the water meters, we did a water revenue bond where we sold bonds to where we spread that cost out over 20 years to reduce the impact to the ratepayers. We tried to get the city of Aberdeen to look at doing that, but it was not something they were, willing to look at. So therefore, you've got to hit over years. And that is something, with a bigger rate base, it's a little bit easier for them. For us, it kills you folks. It is very hard. And it's, that's what's frustrating, because it's out of our hands. We would like to see it where, to me, I consider that some poor management, if you will, because those are things, if you have a little bit of increase every year, that's a lot better than these big jumps where it's really taking a big chunk out of your monthly income.
Okay. We didn't have a question. So, any other questions tonight? Michelle?
Hi, yeah, Michelle Fogus, 131 Alder. So Darren, did I hear you say that there's gonna be a big jump next year for Aberdeen?
They will be having a big jump in their EMS rate later this spring.
And then we will follow that presumably?
Well, that is something the chief's been talking with their fire chief about. There's a lot of things in play there that could affect it. We're hoping to see it go down. That is our goal. But we need to do a rate study as well. And that's one of the things Nick and I spent some time with the Department of Health today, talking about what we can do to get a rate study done to see where our EMS rates need to be. We don't want to see them stay at that amount, but if we do need to do that, that's something we want to have a future meeting about with all of the citizens to talk about. These are some things that we could do with the EMS program. And these are what the cost would be. What would you like to see? So before anything's enacted, we want to bring everybody together and get everybody's priorities for us.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I'd like to know, I'm Brenda Peterson, 1408 4th Street. I'd like to know if we have really good, positive, healthy chances that we're gonna get to keep our wonderful policemen here and not have to have Aberdeen police come in.
So,
Pardon me?
So I have been working closely with the chief. Our goal, you will find out this evening, we have lost 2 officers. And I have to tell you, if you were at the last meeting, the special meeting or the meeting prior to that, we were brainstorming, doing everything we possibly could to keep Officer Tevis. It was heartbreaking to lose such a qualified officer. And you will have tonight, you'll learn a little bit more about the budget, where we're at. We are faced with some difficult times ahead of us. We had another officer who realizes, the department realizes that we are facing some tough times. And so with that said, cities throughout Washington are seeking officers. And one of our officers did apply and did get another job. I don't want to see him gone. He got a $20,000 signing bonus, is that correct? We can't do that. My goal is to keep our chief and our remaining officers, because I think our fire and our police are critical in our community.
I agree.
I know there was some conversation about contracting. I do not see that. We're not going to save money, and the reality is we have police that know our community. They will be here. They know you as citizens. You've worked with them. You understand that they care about each and every one of you. And so the goal is not to have any more cuts. Again, we have some tough decisions ahead of us, and it was heartbreaking to lose those 2 officers. Chief, do you want to speak to any of this?
I think we covered most of it. We've laid off 3 employees now.
Does the building this new police station have anything to do with that? No?
I don't know that that would be for me to answer, however, I think totally unrelated in that one item was a bond that was sought and approved, and the other is our general budget status of how we pay for our police officers, which is all out of the general budget.
Because boy, it sure be a sad day if we lose our policemen. We appreciate them so much, and the firemen too.
Absolutely, and I agree,
I
and
mean,
so
that's number one, as far as I'm concerned.
I want you to know it's a priority for me as a mayor to keep our police and our firemen. I think we have quality individuals in this community that care and are devoted to it. And we've had some really tough decisions. So, thank you. Any other questions?
And as Marcus, to go back to G Street, people tend to forget about public works bringing in funds too, so I think they need to be aware of that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions this evening?
I'll make a quick comment. Kelly Daniels, 316 First Street. I know that the city council has some tough decisions to make due to the budget. I think it's important for all of us as business owners and community members to understand that when you've got the largest public utility customer in Grace Harbor County and Cosmo, I think a lot of people probably don't know that, but Cosmo is the #1 customer to the public utility district, the #1 customer to the PUD. And when you lose such a big customer and a big business in your community, it makes major impacts to the budget. None of the city council members, and certainly none of the staff of the police department or the fire department should bear any of that responsibility. When a business leaves, there are major impacts. And the city council is then tasked with making some of these tough decisions. And so I know there's gonna be tough decisions to be made here over the next month or so, but as far as I'm concerned, I support the city council in these tough decisions, and I think for us as community members, we got to support them as they make these challenges, because it's difficult. None of you wish that Cosmo was gone, and we all wish that Cafe Kenworth would hurry up and get here. But in the interim, until that happens, we are left with some tough decisions to make in terms of the budget. And so I, for one, am going to support you and not ridicule you or get down on you. And I'm sorry that these tough decisions have to be made, but just know that you do have the support of many. And in the end, if we all stay together and work together, I think that we can have good outcomes and keep this community in a positive light. So I don't think that gets said enough, and you're appreciated. So.
Thank you. Well said, and yes, appreciate that
Is
very
the
much.
Cosmo coming back?
So, state your name again. We have a,
I just wonder,
so Brenda, we have been looking at it. I actually did reach out. I made a call. There is no projected date at this time for the mill to come back. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but there is no projected date for that. So in the meantime, we're going to do our best to keep everything working and running in this town. We have a wonderful community.
I think so too.
Any other questions?
I'm just gonna go on record. Shelley Hirschman, 1405 5th Street. I don't miss the smell at all.
I'm sure you do. So, any other questions? Cool. So we're going to go ahead and adjourn at this time, take a break, and then you have a couple minutes, and we're going to go into our council meeting.
Whichever one's highlighted. Gotta get letter first, right? Yeah, whichever one's highlighted is where I control. You don't control anything with that. You gotta get only control this screen. This screen to make control one tweak.
Gotcha, okay, now I understand.
I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Meetings to order, stand for the flag salute, please.
Chief, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we're going to do roll call. We'll start with
Councilmember Skinner.
Here.
Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember Spargo.
Here.
Councilmember Colette.
Here.
Councilmember Ansich.
and we have all the department heads present. So we're going to move on to approval of agenda. There a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving forward. Next, we have public comment. This will be limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address. Oh, on agenda items only.
Cheryl Turner, 825 and a half Second Street. I was looking at the tree removal quote. Jeff, where is this tree at?
It is on Alder Drive. It's right where the stairs go down to Mill Creek Drive. I don't know, I talked about the job that we did there of fixing the road. It's right along the bank for that.
So it's, is it gonna be a danger, any houses up there?
I mean, it's a dead tree. All the council have a packet of, like, pictures of the tree. It's a dead tree. There's about 4 big ones that lean back towards the people's house. A dead tree can come down anytime, so really, I can't really judge how long it would stay up. It is definitely a tree that needs to be taken down at some point, and that's why it's on here, to ask for permission to do this. So really, an estimated time that that tree has to stand, and I don't think anybody can do that, can estimate that, but.
And do we have money to, for that, that's
Well,
coming
it's in
out
the
of
general
what?
fund, and that's why I've been ordered to stay out of the park, so this is why it's on here, is
So
to,
there's no money in parks to do
And,
anything with it?
so that's why I'm asking for it.
So I think this is gonna be addressed basically when Jeff starts.
Well, that's
Talking
public, so
about-
I'm asking in the public comment
Comment.
section,
Okay.
because I wanted to find out the information, whether it was actually dangerous enough to take down now, or if it could wait till after maybe, the property taxes came in. Or something, so that there wasn't such an issue, with the budget. So, thank you.
Thank you. Steve, state your name, please.
Steve Davis, 825 Fifth. On the tree thing, the contractor agreed to send by the minutes or by the agenda that they were gonna prorate their service 7 days. So they were gonna take it down now and get paid for it later.
Yes. April 20th.
But not till, when was it, so?
They would go down to April 20th. They defer the payment till April 20th.
But the taxes don't come in till after that.
I'm gonna prorate a little further.
So this is comment period only, and it will be addressed under new business too.
So on the agenda, you just approved the minutes, and on the draft minutes, it said that Councilmember Colette and Councilmember Ansich voted yay on the first order of business, which was the But they weren't here. At the last meeting.
Thank you for pointing that out. Any other comments? Okay. So we're moving on to consent agenda, claim vouchers. Do we have a motion to approve? Oh, the vouchers and the meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
I move that they be approved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
If the meeting minutes are incorrect with a typo, I don't feel they probably should be approved. If there's a typo in minutes, couldn't that be a conflict?
You can approve them with the correction.
Okay,
Yeah, the amended.
gotcha.
We approve the minutes as amended.
Okay. All opposed? So moving forward. We're moving on to committee reports. We'll start with let's start with the finance committee.
No meeting, no report. Well, actually, there was a meeting, I missed it.
Mr. Skinner was in.
Worked out that way, didn't it?
Mr. Skinner?
Yeah, we held our subcommittee and had quite a bit of discussion on where we stand. And it's not good. I signed up for this and got elected to this, and I don't enjoy coming to a meeting and seeing the people are just like they came from a funeral. We are in tough straits, I understand. And we got a heck of a load. The lady out there talked about being supportive of what we've got to do. And we see in the finances that we're close to deficit, if not in deficit. And what do we do to resolve it? How do we? Who is the next person to be cut? Where do the funds come from? I asked, do we have timber to sell? Do we have land to sell? What can we sell? And I can even, I'll get to ghosts that'll really upset, but what about some antiques that are up there? Anything can we do to sell or make or earn money? Revenue, we gotta find revenue. And it's just harder than heck. We sit there and spent an hour and a half, came up with a lot of different ideas. They won't take effect next month. If we change our our police department and put them on a M&O levies, pay for them that way instead of out of a general fund. Even if you started the process today, it'd be 2025 before there would be funds that would take care of it. We've got to make all this stuff happen now. And I'm, for one, I told you when you elected me, I don't have all the answers. I'm willing to listen and try to understand and move forward on what is best for all of us. Again, we're all citizens here. Most of us are all citizens here. And we want to keep our services where they're at, but we don't want to pay more. We can't raise the property tax. It's set by the state at a certain percent. Yeah, we can set that utility rate and continue to climb it up there. And we're all upset at where it's at right now. Let it alone to add another 2, 3, 4% on top of it. What are we gonna do then? And who is not gonna be able to pay that water bill? And so I don't know. We had a lot of good discussion. We ended our meeting and look forward to meeting again with more information that comes by meeting with the rest of the council members. I don't have that pie in the sky to answer everything tonight.
Okay, next, public parks.
Parks, Jeff and I had a small phone meeting. Jeremy was on vacation in London, a lucky guy. So all we really had to discuss was the tree. I went up and took a peek at it. It is rotten through and through, and Jeff and I discussed who we had available. We went with a local company, Bonnell Tree Technicians. They were able to defer the payment until end of April. So we can get the work done now at least, because it is a danger. One windstorm, it could go right into our citizens' house, and we definitely don't want any issue for them. So that's about all we had in the Parks Department this month.
And public works
No meeting.
and public safety.
We had a meeting a week ago Tuesday, and
it was, that's when I found out that we were having to lay off our second officer, and there was not a happy moment, I'll tell you that. And I, excuse me there, I spent about half that meeting coughing my brains out, for which I want to apologize to our two chiefs there, because I know it was pretty interruptive. And that's about all I have on that.
That's it. Okay. Thank you for your report. Going on to city official report. Did we do the motion? Okay. City administrator, Darren Rain.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a lot on my report this month. One of the things, I just wanted to give an update on the municipal building there next door. They're just working on a small corner of the foundation, trying to get that poured here within the next dry weather window. And then that way they can get the project shut down until they're predicting April 22nd to come back and start framing. And so that's all tentative, of course. It's a moving target depending on weather and materials and things like that, but they should be out of here any day. They were gone for roughly 2 weeks and just showed back up this week. So they're trying to get that one little corner taken care of and get that, once that's poured, get it ready for when they come back to be able to cut into the existing building. We're gonna talk a little bit about the 2024 budget, but Julie's gonna have a good report on that coming up. That is gonna be a real good snapshot of where we're at, and I know she's put a lot of time into it daily. I mean, that's consuming all of her time, and most everybody's, all the department heads, trying to find ways to balance the budget and keep it going in the right direction, which we're struggling to do. Just as a informational item, next month, we will be bringing forward the new building codes that will need to be considered by the council. With that, we will be looking at our building code or our building permit fees. They haven't been adjusted in, gosh, probably over 10 years. And so we know we're very low compared to what the code says we should be doing. And you know, with the construction we had over the last few years, we gave away a fair amount of money. So that is something we'll be looking at as well. And these codes could potentially affect, you know, like the new project, the Pape building, for instance. That's why the architect is trying to get the permit in here within the month, so they don't get, that doesn't trigger the new building code requirement, which would substantially increase the cost of any development, both residential and commercial. So that is something, if anybody's got any small projects you want to get done, you might want to get them permitted now. We'll probably have a workshop on that. I think that would be good to help explain that. We'll have the building official here so you can ask him questions as well. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Did you want to talk about the meeting we attended the other day?
Oh, sure. I thought maybe you wanted to, but.
No, I'll let
okay.
you do that.
Thank you. Yesterday, we attended a meeting with Greater Grace Harbor over at the Log Pavilion, and it was kind of the state of Grace Harbor with a presentation from their new interim CEO. But part of that event was also a roundtable with the city administrators and other officials throughout Grace Harbor. So that was the first time that's been done in all my years being here, and it was a good event. You know, we all have different issues, but similar issues. Maybe they're on a different scale, but I think we're learning by getting together more often. We're finding ways where we can work together and maybe work on big issues that it shouldn't be just one city or just the county's problem. It should be all of our problems. But it was nice to hear about things going on in other cities and some of the challenges they're facing as well. This is going to be an annual event. It's similar to what they have later in the spring, which is the mayor's event. And they have a a monthly meeting, which is typically a business topic of some sort. But they're now trying to get more city officials involved, or county officials, or other agencies, to where it gives the people a chance to hear firsthand what's going on behind the scenes.
Thank you. Finance Director, Julie Pope.
Okay, tonight I have a budget update for you, but before we get to that, I do have a couple of questions. Well, one for the city council on the spring cleanup. You know, with the issues our general fund is facing, that's where those funds come out of to pay for that. So I wanted to get the council's thoughts on if we should go forward with that. It does roughly cost us between $1,600 and $1,800 a year, depending on how many people utilize it and how much the stuff they take to the dump weighs. So is the city council interested in continuing that this year? Any thoughts from the council members on that?
Personally, myself, I think we should pass. This year, we should pass on it. I know there's people have stuff and they've stored it and stored it and stored it. They can store it for another year. I can. We just can't. I know the rates at LeMay's have went up. They raised their tonnage rates, so we would see an increase in it. I just don't know that we can financially put that in the budget and think that we can make it happen and do the other cuts that we have to do.
So do we have a motion?
Oh, did it? It doesn't.
I motion to decline the spring cleanup this year.
I'll second that.
Do we have any discussion?
Once again, I back Councilman Skinner. We gotta start living below our means for a little while to get us out of the hole we're in, so it's unfortunate.
All of those in favor?
Aye.
All of those opposed? Moving on. So passed.
Okay, citywide garage sale. June 22nd of this year will be the citywide garage sale. So maybe any of those who are interested in participating, if you could get your addresses to us. I'd like to put out a map this year. It's something we haven't done the last couple of years, but I'd like to set one up and get it out on social media so people know where to go. So, and then the other thing I wanted to give you guys an update on is express bill pay. 1 year ago in January, we started our new payment software, our online portal system. That has been a huge success. It has streamlined things in City Hall. It works seamlessly with our accounting software. And as of right now, 40% of our residents use that software, which is fantastic. So I just want to give you all an update on that. And so now I will go into our budget update. Hold on a second. This doesn't like me. It's his fault. Oh, there we go. So starting at the beginning of this year, we had a cash balance of $178,869 in our general fund. During the month of January, we had revenues in the amount of $92,668, but we spent $180,791 that month. This resulted in a loss of $88,123 for the month, leaving a cash balance of $90,746 to start February with. Just to show you, for example, January 23 versus 24, total revenues in 23 were $235,826 compared to the $92,668 for January of 24. Expenditures for the same month last year, $185,085 versus $180,791. So you'll see in 23 for January, we had a net gain of $50,741, but this year we had a net loss of $88,123. So why is revenue so much lower? Well, sales tax is down $4,245. B&O tax was down $55,888. And utility tax on electricity was down $97,994. And that is all attributed to the mill being down. Why are expenditures relatively the same? Well, that's mostly due to inflation. Just like at home, everything has gone up so much. We're buying less items, but it's costing us more. So, the city staff has done an excellent job. All department heads, all employees that work in each department has done a great job of being conscious of their spending. So I have to thank them for that, or this honestly would be much worse than it currently is. So for February, we had a beginning cash balance of $90,746. I'm only projecting that the general fund will take in $72,900, but we're looking at spending $160,383 this month, which is another loss of $87,483. So at the end of this month, we're only gonna have $3,263 to start March with. So February is normally a lean month for the city every single year. It's a short month. There's just not a lot of revenue that comes in. And so it does normally lose $30,000 to $50,000 each year. But this year we're estimating a loss of $87,483. But we've also done a few things to try to mitigate some of our losses. So effective January 31st, a city hall clerk, a police clerk, and a police officer were laid off. And then on February 14th, another police officer resigned to take a position with another agency in lieu of a layoff. So these are just some of the things that we're doing to try to mitigate these losses. Just know that every single department head, every single employee, the mayor, the council, we are doing our best to try to come up with something to stop the bleeding. It literally dominates our work days every day and our evenings. Literally, without this team, we wouldn't be sitting here now. We'd already be done.
Thank you, Joy. So with that, anything else?
No, I was just gonna ask if there were any questions from the council.
Yeah, I have something. It just looks like we're on tough times. None of us are responsible. We're all new, just trying to get us out of these dark times, which is making us come up with some of the hardest decisions the city's ever seen or gonna have to make. So with reserves almost gone, and tough decisions to be made, I would like to make a motion to have the city administrator reach out to the county for a proposal to get law enforcement services. And if possible, to have that proposal by end of business Friday. And to set an emergency meeting for next Tuesday, the 27th at 6 p.m. to discuss and possibly vote. That's just, we got to try to figure out somewhere to save some money and get those general funds up. So if I get a second, I do. If I don't, I don't. I just would like to motion to get that ball rolling if possible.
Before I'd be willing to second such a motion, I'd have to have some more information and idea as to just what we're talking. What proposal are you wanting the city administrator to do?
Full coverage of law enforcement services, to see what the county could come in and cover for us. A town our size, we just are living above our means, and this is nothing personal, chief. This is just something we have to look at to see what we're paying out now to what we could pay out to have similar services delivered from the county sheriffs.
I don't think I have enough information to second that motion right now. I would be happy to discuss it further.
Well, I just wanted to give that a shot because I just looking over the budget, I just don't see another option we're gonna really have come March. The lights are gonna get turned off.
I'd like to see this tabled for further discussion.
Well, you can't table it unless there's a second.
Okay.
It would fail for lack of a second.
I'll second that. We've got to explore all options. By seconding it and allowing Darren to gather the information is not.
We're just looking at numbers. That's all we're doing. Similar to a contract with Oakville that Chief had proposed several weeks ago. I'm just trying to think of options that we have, and
Well, if we have a second, then we can do discussion, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so then I would like to hear what the chief thinks.
I'm a little caught guard by that request. I don't know that I have a whole lot of data for you, but I have been here a long time and remember this discussion occurring in the past and it being bids from Aberdeen and County. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I remember the council gave a hard pass on them both last time because it was more than what they were paying for us to provide the services.
And that's all I'm asking is just to see some
I'm
numbers.
just answering the question.
Yeah.
So, I understand the financial prediction. You're basically down to 2 officers next week. So it doesn't get much cheaper than that to have 2 people doing the job. So long term, you guys have your decisions to make, and if that's what you choose to check into, then do that. But you're kind of sealing the deal when you do it because they're going to get other jobs. We gave a notice of layoff to another officer last week, and he had a job offer within 2 days, and he accepted it. So he didn't quit because he wanted to go. He took a job offer because he was laid off. What's going to happen to the rest, and the decision will be made for you. And as Oakville found out when they ended police services, they don't come back. And the reason why I was asked by our city administrator to have the discussion to see what that would look like when we talked about Oakville was because there was people there that weren't happy with the level of service that we're providing. That doesn't mean they're not a phenomenal agency, but it's a blip on a map for an agency that's very busy with a whole lot of square mileage. So if, again, the decisions will have consequences and you have to consider those consequences. And if it's a positive consequence for saving finances for the city, that's fine. You'll have a public works department that'll be very healthy and operating and doing a phenomenal job as they've always done, and you'll have a city hall. But you won't have police services, and you certainly won't have officers helping a little old lady with a collision that can't get her insurance card and spending half an hour on the phone helping her get it because she doesn't have the ability on the internet anymore. So
We can definitely hear out Sheriff Wallace's offer.
So it's a decision you gotta make.
In light of the community sentiment, public comments about our police.
Joey, I'm sorry, could you speak up a little bit?
I'll sure try. In light of the public comments that we heard earlier in our community sentiment and support for police staff, I personally would not want to pursue that option at this moment.
And I speak, and when we had our public safety meeting and we brought up, and I mentioned it just a little bit earlier, maybe this isn't the appropriate part, but we also looked at this idea of the M&O to operate the police department. And we talked to the chief and asked him, with his current staffing, could he cover it? Could he cover the city at that time with who we had with us? And I felt real confident that he said yes, with him doing patrolling as well as his other 2 officers. Now he's down to 2, and himself and 1 other officer. And we all know the tons of paperwork that has to be entered in on a daily basis. We're gonna see 1 officer out here patrolling as much as possible, and the chief will, when he's got the time away from his desk, to take care of everything else that has to be done, that a clerk done for him and for the fire chief to a certain extent. I don't wanna see those people go away. I agree with everything else that's been said here about they know us, they know who we are. We got our town. They'll do their best with what they have. And if they can get by for the year through this lean time, whatever it is, and we can bring on board that maintenance and operation, then it will be up to us as the citizens to decide the coverage that we want. We're gonna have to pay for it. We're gonna pay for it in a levy, just like you do your school levy. However that system works, we'll get the service then that we want to afford. Right now, we can't afford it city-wise. We're gonna do the best we can. I'm in agreement here with a couple other on the council that I wanna see our police department stay here. And there might be a cheaper deal this way or that way. I cannot depend on thinking that a sheriff can make as fast as a response as one of our own people do. It was a great concern for us in our fire department, in the response that we were concerned about coming, that we didn't have it here. Now we're looking to do it with our police department. Last but not, I'm not I'm not scared of the world. And I'm fearful that media and everything else has got us all scared to the next person walking down the street.
Yeah, really.
And I don't know how many calls the chief gets for those kinds of things, but I understand that sometime he's gonna have to make a decision. I'm not gonna be able to go respond to Mrs. So-and-so seeing somebody walk across her yard. He's going to have to take care of his other business. So you might not get the same exact response you always had, but it's still gonna be, in my belief, better than just a, well, he'll be here soon. That's when we're in need, so.
So everyone's thinking that a sheriff's not gonna be around. I just wanna hear the offer of what we might have available before I'm just saying cut things off. I'm feeling like everyone's pinpointing me as the bad guy.
No.
You know, and if that's the case, that's the case. I just wanna see what they are offering and the prices. We're paying upwards of $1 million a year for our current department. We're a small town. We don't need to be paying $900,000+ a year. That seems way too high. So just wanted to state that before we start throwing things out.
And I certainly didn't mean to suggest that. I just want to be sensitive of the chief's time with respect to pursuing options like that.
This was uncomfortable for me to bring up and discuss. These are just things we have to
I'm
discuss.
fine with the discussion, but we don't have $1 million budget. We have a $634,000 budget.
It's still very high for a town our size.
That's twice as much as what you said though, so I just think that's an important thing to discuss.
I definitely.
That's $634,000 budgeted, and since then, we've cut 2 extra positions. So I don't know what that equals out to, because there would need to be a budget amendment to tell me what that is, but we've cut.
We're trying our best, and I just looking at all options to try.
The discussion is to keep that in mind.
Chief,
Not
how
$1 million.
long would it take to get those estimates?
I have no idea.
I asked
Not
Darren.
what you're asking to do.
Sorry, Darren, how long would it take to get those estimates?
I don't know, I'd have to reach out to the sheriff's office, if that's what you want me to do, find out.
Well, I'm not, sorry, not so much curious about the turnaround, but how difficult would it be for you to get those estimates?
Could we have the proposal by Tuesday next week, do you think, for an emergency meeting?
Yeah. And I guess, I can certainly make the ask if that's what the council wishes.
So,
Excuse me, we have a motion on the floor.
yes, we do. So is there any more discussion at this point in time? If not, we're gonna take a vote. All of those in favor?
Aye.
All of those opposed?
Aye.
What would you say? The noes have it. We are, sorry, I'm a little taken back, Bill.
So is there a public comment time? Is it after?
After.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're going on to the next department head. Okay, Jeff.
I got a pretty short one tonight, so I'll be discussing that tree removal quote under the new business. So one of the things, I don't know how many people have been walking around Mill Creek Park, but we got a bunch of trees down there right now. I put up some signs to keep people away, but I can't work in that park until July, till that RCO grant money kicks in, so I can get down in there. So you're gonna have to bear with us. We don't want it to look like that either, but right now, with the current situation in the budget, we can't be in there either. So we'll get to it as soon as we can. Another thing I've talked about over the last several months is the lighting retrofit and the lights that we've ordered. We've ordered the lights, we're just waiting for them to show up so we can pay the electrician to put them in. So just kind of an update on that. And we'll talk more about the tree removal under new business, so.
Chief?
A lot of stuff's already been covered. Officer Bailey's last day with us is February 28th. Notice a layoff was given and he was offered a job, three jobs actually, the same week. And he's accepted a position and will be joining. We continue to focus on serving the public with the officers we have. I received a grant for $1,400 for a speed measuring device from WASPIC. Correspondence came through today. Fully funding for a one-rater unit. Chief Fowley and I did a grant together. We got $3,000 for replacement of MTTs for us and $2,500 for new MDTs for the fire department and the engines. I'll let him explain that if he chooses to. We also received the grant for $25,781 for the body worn camera grant. We turned it down because it wasn't the funding for the entirety of it. We didn't have matching funds. I have no further report.
Chief Salary.
Thank you. I'll piggyback off of the MDT grant. So this was some homeland security funds that were available at the county level that directly tied to terrorism. So we were able to get 4 new MDT units, 2 replacement for fire or for police vehicles, and 2 new ones for fire department vehicles. These are the computers at the 911 center and are essential for getting that updated information. So we wish we could have used that $11,000 for working on something else, but it did have to be directly tied back to terrorism. So that's why that project was selected locally. Last week at the public safety meeting, the public safety committee did confirm the membership of 4 new members with the fire department and the resignation of 1 member who has left the community. I did want to touch base on, I know that there's a lot of negative comments on our new fire agreement with Aberdeen and hopefully in Fire District 2 that we entered into in September. Last Wednesday, so a week ago tonight, we did have a house fire here in Cosmopolis, and on the initial dispatch within the 5-minute window, we did have 4 engine companies responding, 3 chief officers and a fully staffed medic unit coming to our community. The unintended benefit of this agreement is a citizen who lives here in Cosmopolis who was off duty with the city of Aberdeen, got the dispatch and was just a couple houses down and was able to go down there with a bucket of water because he got the dispatch on his phone and put it out before any of the engines were able to make it. So I did want to thank that off-duty firefighter. It was, I was telling Darren about it the next morning, it's kind of one of those unintended benefits of this agreement that you did get that dispatch because it's a callback for Aberdeen. So that was a great outcome, especially for those homeowners. And then this Saturday is Jared Shapansky's service. Your firefighters here have been working hard, getting rigs looking nice, getting uniforms put together. Flags will be at half-mast on Saturday for the service. We will have an engine down there, and we'll have firefighters here in the station with for the family as well. So just wanted to update on that. Pending any questions, that's under my report.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the mayor's report. So, a lot's going on. Just kind of jumping on what you said about coming into the position, I knew there were going to be issues, challenges. I had no idea the level of challenges. Had an opportunity to spend time with my family this weekend. And I was saying to my son-in-law, had I had any idea, I wouldn't have done this. He looked at me shocked because he knows me. And he said, really? You love your community. You would just let what your concerns happen? And I looked at him, I said, you're right, I wouldn't. I am your mayor. You elected me, some of you may not. But I want you to know, I am hitting the ground every morning running. Julie had probably 6 calls from me today about this presentation, about the budget. I said, dummy this down. My husband, who's here, he's great with numbers. I'm not. I am not a financial person. So I said, people in the audience want to see, want it brief, want to be able to see what is really happening in our city. You are going to get a budget report every meeting. I want you to know that. I've asked a lot of Julie. I meet with Julie once a week because I am not, as I said, a financial expert. We are going through every line of the budget to see if we can make changes. They had a lien assessor come in prior to me taking office. And it really is about processes, but not so much where you dig into it. And so I've kind of rattled things uphill, and they all probably look at you and say, oh yeah, she has. And it's not that I feel our staff is incompetent, they're not. They have knowledge, they're qualified, but I know that fresh eyes can make a difference. So I've asked Julie about another financial person coming in, an expert, who will, at no cost to the city, and Julie has been gracious and is willing to sit down to the table to see, are we missing something else? So I want you to know we are working closely together. Has it been easy? No, it hasn't. Have we had a few bumps? We have. But that's what it takes. You know, I'm not gonna come in and whitewash and say this is easy. It's not. You know, I thought, oh, you know, 20 hours a week. I'm doing 20 hours a week. I am reaching out to resources, to other experts, everything, other cities, talking to our staff. The other thing we're doing that you're probably not aware of, not only do Julie and I meet weekly to look at the budget, we have a department head meeting once a week. And when I came on, they said, what do you mean, a department head once a week? I said, it's not a choice. We are going to do this. And I need each of you to come to the table because we have hard choices to make. You need to be part of the decision-making. And when they can't, then it's gonna come to me. But that process, I want to be inclusive. I want everybody involved. And there are gonna be changes. We are a small city. We cannot, even if the mail comes back, we are not going to, in the 4 years that I plan on being here, we are not going to operate like a city bigger than what we are. We have to build our reserves. We have to put money away. I know a lot of things happened. Last year, decisions were made that shouldn't have been made, but we can't look at that. It's like, what do we do to move forward? Yes, we only have so much for this coming, you know, revenue. And so the question was, every time Julie would send me a slide today, I was like, no, we need more. And she would add it to that information. So you would really get a good picture of what is happening in our city. And then I said, okay, what are we going to do? They've thrown out ideas. I want you to know, before we jump ahead, getting rid of services that we value, who have sacrificed a lot of things to provide the best service in our community, that we as a team are working to find other measures to help support this budget. Are we ready to give up? Are we ready to throw away what we have? I'm not. And I'm gonna fight like hell that it doesn't happen. I want you to know that. The chief has made lots of sacrifices. There were comments about, oh, we're training officers and they're leaving our city. So I reached out to the chief. These guys get phone calls from me constantly. I'm sure I've started thinking Dylan's not picking up his phone anymore because I call him at 8 o'clock in the morning, like, you know, but I know he's busy too, but you do return my calls. But so I asked the chief, tell me about this. How much are we spending on officers? And I'm happy to give you a detailed report of how much volunteer time he donates for the training of our officers. There were comments like, oh, you know, he got this from the city, this from the city. I have 2 pages of training, donating, things he paid out of pocket to support officer training here. So they are the best. The other thing, and I want to talk about, people want to know, what are our plans? We, as we come to those department heads meeting, we are looking at what are the next steps. This first year is going to be crucial. And I believe with my whole heart, we're going to make it through. We're going to make it through intact, but it's tough. It's going to be lean. And there's going to be some changes that my departments are not going to be happy with. My goal is not to lose anyone. That may not be the case. That may not be the case. I cannot make promises, but there are going to be changes. I'd like to, yeah, we've had small changes. But I'd like that to be acknowledged. I heard nothing but complaining about, oh, the draft minutes are posted, the draft minutes are posted. Guess what? The draft minutes are posted. They would have been posted right at the beginning of January, but I was sick. So that it didn't happen. When you want something to happen now, let's be realistic. It's not gonna happen like right now. Comments about city cards. Guess what? They're not driving city cars. Were they happy? No. We're listening to you. We are making cuts. It may not come out of the general fund, but we are listening to you. We are wanting to be respectful of how you feel and what is happening in this community. We are looking at everything. So before we throw anything out, let's have really serious, in-depth conversations, because we're gonna lose a lot if we don't. You're not gonna get officers back. The county just laid off two deputies. Vicki talked about that last week. The county is in a huge deficit right now in their budget. I worked for DSH as an adult services. I had to be out. I had to call on deputies when I was out in the field, and there's a lot of time I waited, 30 or 40 minutes. And they're great. I wouldn't have walked into some of the houses that I had to go in and do an investigation without them, you know. But even with the limited police force, I'm gonna tell you, you're not going to get the service that we have. And do I believe that we are going to be back where we need to, hopefully back where we need to be by the end of this year? I strongly believe that. And again, I'm a mayor that if you reach out to me to talk to me, I'm gonna be there, okay? Send me an email, set up an appointment. I am very busy, but I want to support each and every one of you. Thank you. So, moving on to new business.
That's me.
Oh, yeah.
So, back to the tree again. We talked a little bit about it before, and yes, it is a dead tree. And yes, there is a hazard to every dead tree, depending on which way the wind blows, and if we get snow, wind, all that kind of stuff. Reason why I brought this forward to council is because I've been asked not to spend money in the park, so I want their input on what they want me to do. If this was a normal budget where we had money, that thing would already been gone, but we don't have the money. So that's the only reason why this is here, is for budget reasons whatsoever, because I, as a department head, can make that call to get that tree cut down, but when I don't have the funds to do it, I can't make that call. So that's why I'm leaning on you guys about this tree. Some pictures there, bark's peeling off. I mean, it's a dead tree. We've got lots of them. Just like I said, in Mill Creek Park, we got 8 to 10 dead trees. It's gonna take a week to get all them out of there, and we're gonna have to wait on that. Then we wanna wait on this too. That's what I want you guys to decide.
So, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve funds for removing the tree.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Any discussion?
I made the
Do we have
motion so could
this-
discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What's that?
I said I made the motion so we could have discussion.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess I would like to hear input from Jeff and Julie about, where we think we are in terms of the consequence of
She's
not.
the fun lady right there.
Well, like I said, at the end of February, I'm starting off, the 1st of March with $3,200. And we've got to get through March. I'm not gonna see, I'll get some additional revenue in April from property taxes, but the big bulk of that won't hit until May. So this whole year is gonna be tight. Every single penny is going to count this year. So it's really up to the council and what you wanna do.
Assuming the worst, let's say this tree falls
Right.
and, it's a liability, right? It
Right.
does damage to property or God forbid a person.
Right, so
what-
then we have that aspect, so it's literally up to the council on what they would like to do.
On out in a normal year, that thing would be gone.
Wouldn't even be a
But
discussion.
when we don't have a normal year ahead of us, so.
I went up and personally looked at the tree. It's rotted over halfway through. I could stab a rod through it. And with the risk of it possibly going towards one of our neighbors and citizens' house, we just can't take that risk, because if the one gust of wind goes that way, they have a lawsuit, and we're asking for a whole lot more money and problems because it could have hurt them or their house or their loved one or their dog. And so I feel, and since it's the company was willing to work with us and go with a deferred payment stretching out to April 20th, 2024. I definitely feel that that company at the local outfit, Bonnell Tree Technicians, accommodated us the best they could.
Would they be willing to stretch it out to May?
Well,
Or is this a hard,
I mean,
hard date?
sure he'd be willing to do anything, but it's
That's asking a lot when we've already asked for a deferred payment for
he
several
already
months.
took $300 after that, after Justin talked to him.
Yeah, we didn't state that. The original quote was for $1,300, and after I spoke with Dan Bonnell, he was able to lower it down to $1,000 because he understands our difficult position. But it is a difficult tree with some power lines nearby, and it's not just a pop your saw out of the back of your truck and drop it kind of tree.
Can I ask, can I interject with a public comment? If it's next to public lines, we can request the public utility district call Asplund and have it removed at no cost. So if it's near a public utility line, the public utility can remove that at no cost.
We could definitely look in to make sure if it was PUD or communication lines.
Jim, excellent.
It's actually both.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
In the front of it, but is it gonna reach the front? That's the thing. It's kind of one of those trees that are right on the edge, where they may or may not do it. It's one of those things. So.
There's no money in current unrated.
I amend my motion, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. And I'll amend the motion that we first pursue, what was that?
Public utility
Public
district.
utility district, free removal service. And then what would be our next opportunity to vote if we do need to approve the funds? Maybe we can do a provisional.
End of March.
End of March.
Third week of March.
Okay, I'll motion, I'll add to my motion that we approve the funds, pending we cannot get the provisional from the.
Pending funds come in, there's no funds.
You're right. If you vote on the approval of the funds, you can have a read back to your motion.
Yeah, could you read back my motion?
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Yeah, right, so, right.
Well, I know it was.
I'll try again.
Rephrase it.
Yeah, sure.
I know it was amended. Basically,
Okay, my amended motion is that we first pursue free removal from BUD, and that if they're not willing to do the removal, then I propose that we do fund the removal of this tree.
Okay.
I second that as amended.
All of those in favor?
Aye.
All of those opposed? Any further discussion? So passed. Okay. And so next we have Julie Pope, Finance Director, who's going to talk about unemployment insurance. And before she does this, I just want to add something. When I took office, it was like, well, I had a lot of input about if you fire this person, if you get rid of this person, if you do this, you're gonna cut, you can save all of this money. As you can see, walking in and just instantly getting rid of someone, you have to think about severance pay. You have to think about unemployment. You know, when you're going to give them that layoff notice, things don't happen overnight. You walk in, you explore, and you find out what needs to happen. And with that said, I remember setting out there last year Julie brought this to the council last year, it didn't pass. Part of our meeting is, what are we looking at? And so again, this discussion is being brought to the council.
So currently with unemployment, we're what's called a reimbursable employer. So what that means is every quarter I send in all the employee wages to the state employment security department, but we don't pay a tax. So when we lay somebody off and they file a claim, we pay their claim. So what we're asking for tonight is to go from a reimbursable employer to a taxable employer, which means we would then pay the quarterly taxes, but when somebody files a claim, we don't pay the claim. So according to the Employment Security Department, let's see, we would be assigned a tax rate of 1.25% for the first 8 quarters, which is basically 2 years. And then they would adjust our rate based off any claims that were made against us. So while it would add an expense to us now, it could save bigger expenses down the road. Because like, for example, now with us, you know, laying off basically 4 people, and if they all applied for unemployment, we would have to pay those back to Employment Security Department.
For 10 weeks, is that what it is?
You can go up
Yeah.
to 6 months.
Now, still with the economy thing, you can extend it.
So what are the council's thoughts? If anybody has any questions on that from the council?
A lot of questions. Well, it's hard to imagine us cutting more positions right now, but certainly not outside the realm of possibility, even if that's just somebody you know, being let go to be replaced in the future. What sort of savings are we realistically looking at, or potentially looking at?
Well, for example, I know one of the people that applied for employment is gonna get roughly $500 a week for unemployment. Well, the city has to pay that $500 a week. But overall, let's take, say, $150,000 in a whole quarter that we pay in payroll, it would be 1% of that. So we're actually gonna save money in the long run by doing so. I mean, right now we'll be paying basically by at least 3.
And this doesn't impact our employees' eligibility for unemployment?
No, it has no effect on that whatsoever.
Okay, so it's just the way that we.
It's the way we pay it.
For that.
Correct.
Okay.
I remember when this came up last time, and ironically, we were like, oh, we never lay anybody off.
That's the goal.
That changed.
That was a conversation when this came up last year.
Absolutely. It's up to the council what they would
So do we
do.
have a motion?
I motion that we move to a taxable employer to save us from paying 100% of their unemployment.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Discussion's sake, I guess I'd like there to be an opportunity for the city staff to comment. I don't know if there are any concerns about that, I think the council should be made aware of.
Well, I think from our point of view, it would be a cost savings long-term, especially as we go through these times. Like Councilman Answer said, last year, it may not have made sense in hindsight. If we'd have done it, we would have saved quite a bit of money here, you know, over the last couple months. We don't know what the future holds. Personally, I don't think we've hit bottom yet. So I think it would be a wise decision to move forward with this.
Thank you.
All of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed. Council comments this evening. Jim, we'll start with you.
I would like to schedule a workshop before the next meeting for, say, 30 minutes for the council to discuss the public being placed on our council committees. If anybody has any questions, comments.
I'd just like to add to that, you know, anybody who's looking to, or interested in joining the Parks Committee is certainly welcome to reach out to Justin or I. to express your interest. We're not expecting a lot of new business in Parks right now. But we are, you know, we'll keep our eyes on the future. And our parks are still very important to the city, and they will be here when these tough times are past and long behind us.
That's all I have.
Okay. Mark?
Well, I would like to just say that we need to look not only for the short term, because we are definitely in a crisis right at the moment. We also need to look long term. And I think failure to look long term is part of what brought us to where we are today. Now, there's been some talk of an M&O levy. I think that needs to go forward. And that'll be a long-term deal. It'll be about 1.5 years, but will we see any benefit from it if it was passed right now? But once again, it would be a long-term deal. It would be in the future. So we need to look at both the short term and the long term. And I want to say also that I stand in support of our two chiefs, especially Chief Lehman there in the police department.
Thank you. Justin, any comments?
No comments tonight.
Johnny, any comments?
No further comments from me.
I'll just tag on with Mark. I really do think that we need to move forward with this idea of the M&O. Just to put a committee together to look at it and try to get it off the ground and moving forward, if it's what will save us and keep our police department healthy. And I would like to make a motion, if I can at this time, to put a subcommittee together to explore the possibilities of an M&O levy for operation of the police department, maintenance and operation of the police department.
I would second such a motion.
So with that said, and I'm not sure Darren or Steve can help me, as department head, we were just having this discussion to start working on that, to bring it forward. So any comments on what do we need to do?
Yeah, I think it'd be a great idea to get some citizens involved in that committee as well.
Sorry, can I have this question, I'm sure many others do. We discussed what an M&O levy is.
Maintenance and operation. City of Elma has been doing this for 4 or 5 years, I believe, Chief. Somewhere in there to fund their police department. They went through some tough times where retail sales and taxes from that dropped to the point where they couldn't fully fund their police department. So they went out after an initial M&O levy, which was approved, and then it goes yearly, it has to be approved by the citizens of the city. It would fund roughly 1 officer a year. In Elma's case, it's bridged the gap to where now they're starting to see a lot of growth, and I think they're in a pretty good situation where they'll eventually be able to transition away from that. That would help with some of the bleeding, for us, but if the mill bill comes back, it's not gonna be the only answer, but it will help.
Is the funding from a levy, is that a cost passed on to citizens? How is that?
Yes, it will be voted upon by
citizens. Okay, and that will go on the ballot initiative?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? So before we move on to public comment, there was just, so do we have a vote on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Or opposed? Okay, so passed. Just one thing I wanted to bring up during my comments, and I know we've had a lot this evening. There was some discussion, some stuff on social media regarding our lights on the main corridor, concerns about the lighting. So one of the things I want the public to know that the lighting right there on the main corridor, will continue. We're going to continue through the summer months. The winter snowflakes are coming down. The corridor team, the volunteers that, the pedal pushers and other volunteers that are working on that corridor project, we are trying to entice businesses. We are trying to market our community. We are trying to say, look what a wonderful, beautiful little town we have. So not only will it shine during the day, it's gonna be shining during the evening. If you go through small communities, there's always kind of a special boulevard or a street that they have those lights on. That is our Cosmopolis. So you're asking, what are the costs to the citizens? So I've worked with Jeff. My understanding is this is a state route. We are allowed, and correct me if I'm wrong, a certain amount of wattage. And with that said, there was a little bit over, maybe $40. We have a private citizen that will be paying for that cost over during the darkest hours. And then as we move into summer, we will be under that. So there will be no additional cost. What we will have is a nice lighting of the corridor. The pedal pushers and volunteers are getting ready to do the flowers. No cost to the city. This is all done by volunteers. We had a couple of businesses last summer say, people, when they stopped in, commented how nice our community looked. So if anyone asks about the lights, snowflakes are coming down. That's a winter decoration. The end of February, the lights will continue. Okay, any questions, comments?
The snowflakes in the winter though?
Yes. Okay, so public comments, any comments?
Kelly Daniels, 316 First Street. I've got to stand up because I need to get my point across. And Julie, if you could go back to the slide that you prepared that talks about the reserves in February, please. So for a living, I read financial statements. That's what I do. I own businesses, and so every week we read financial statements. And as a business owner in this city, I'm not sure that the city council understands the situation that we're in. And I need to go back to the slide to make some comments here.
Hold on.
So you can get it up.
Fighting with it.
I'm gonna go over 3 minutes, and so if someone can give me their 3 minutes, I'd be grateful. We'll wait. So we get this up to it doesn't start till the slide gets up.
Well, it's one, but it keeps popping over. Oh, there we go.
Got it?
No, well, Zoom keeps popping up over my screen.
Yeah. Mine doesn't start.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, so this is where we are. We started out at the beginning of the year with $90,000 in reserves. You can see by the end of February, we are down to 3,200, and that starts March. No offense, Linda, I know you say that you're not a financial person, and I understand that, and I respect that you acknowledge that you're not. We don't have any money for snowflakes. We don't have any money for any staff member that is in the building. Literally, next month, the lights in Cosmopolis are shut off. And I hear you say, and other council members say, that this is an inclusive situation, that everything needs to be on the table, that we need to build reserve. We want all ideas, good or bad, on the table. What are we gonna do? Serious, in-depth conversations. The police department is my friend. Keith and I are personal friends. I am grateful for what him and his staff have done over the years. But Councilmember Spargo said, I just want to know what the answer is. And I do too. I want to know from the county, what would it cost for the county to provide police services to our community? The reason I want to know that answer is so that we can kill it if we're able to save money by having our own police force. If not, we put it on the table so that we have everything on the table like you asked. Councilmember Collette said, I want to hear all ideas, good or bad. I want to ask the council members to offer the motion again and reconsider. Let's put it on the table. Let's find out what it would cost for the county to provide police services. Because the fact of the matter is, after this month, we cannot pay the staff that we have. We can't pay the officers. We can't even pay the light bill. There is no money left. And I think that the council needs to understand that the dire straits is now. We have to make the tough decisions now. So everything has to be on the table. We're down to 3 officers. We have 2 officers and 1 on maternity leave. We have to pay the unemployment. I mean, the bills are not going to stop. We can't even pay staff next month. And so the situation that we're in, Linda, is that we have to make tough decisions. We're probably gonna have to have some emergency council meetings because the cuts and the reductions have to be done now. In the next 2 weeks, we have to make some cuts and some determinations. So I wanna know, what is it gonna cost for the county to provide police services to our community? I want cops in Cosmopolis. I want cops up on the hill. I want cops down on the businesses. I want a resident cop here. I want law enforcement here. But right now, we will not have law enforcement next month. And the council today voted on a motion by council member Spargo, and you voted against it. You voted against, nope, I don't want that idea. We don't have any choice anymore. We have to have all ideas on the table. I want the mayor to know what it would cost for the county to provide services. At the end of the day, if we had to do something like that and we had to eliminate our police department, God forbid, we then, by law, the county has to provide police services to our community. So if there's a 911 call and we cannot have one of our local officers here, the sheriff's department is required to come on those calls. They're required. So we know that that is at the very least, a backup. But I'm gonna be the bearer of bad news. Because I read personal financial statements and business financial statements for a living, there's no more time to talk. This is not the fault of the city head departments. This is not at fault to the city council members. These poor folks just got elected. This is because Cosmo is not here. And if you could show the next slide on the Cosmo, on the
previous.
Yep. Keep going, right there. This is a result of Cosmo. This isn't a result of the budget director not doing her job. It's not the result of Public Works spending too much money. It's not the result of a lot of things. It is that the biggest employer and the biggest customer of the Grace Harbor PUD is no longer here. It's not these council members' fault. And everybody has to know that. We have to support our council members. It is not the budget director and it's not the city administrator's fault that the budget is in this situation. It is simple math that our largest employer in our community is no longer here. And so now what we are faced at is $3,000. There's no money for any person in your staff. You're gonna have a city hall that has no staff. You can't even afford to pay the light bill. And so when tough questions are asked, like Councilmember Spargo, that's brilliant. Let's ask the question. Because we have to have all the answers and we have to be inclusive and all the things that you and Councilmember Colette said. Everything's on the Taylor. The failure to not look long-term, we have to look short-term and long-term. Councilmember Skinner is 100% right. We need to look at an M&O levy. The problem is it's 18 months away and we might have to do something different for police services in the interim. That's very, very good foresight that we need to look at an M&O levy. Problem is, we don't have 18 months. We don't even have 2 weeks. And so the community of Cosmopolis needs to understand the facts. There's no sugarcoating at this. We shouldn't be talking about snowflakes or lights or parks or flowers or anything.
Trees.
Nothing. We should be asking for donations for trees. And we should be asking for donations for spring cleanups. We can't afford our power bill. And I think that we do a disservice to the business owners and to the community members in this community to sugarcoat the situation we're in. It's not at fault to the city staff, and it is not at fault to these city council members. We have to support these folks. The reason is because Cosmo left. It's that simple. And the previous city council members tried their very best to not put us here, but the city council members didn't act. They didn't act, they didn't make these tough decisions a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. And so here we are with these new folks that just got elected with this great big, horrible, awful, rotten sandwich that they have to chew. And so I have to tell you, everyone needs to wake up, because everything needs to be on the table, and I am imploring you to offer another motion and get a second and have at least the conversation so that you can come back to the community with the answers of what will it cost for county to assume police services in the city of Cosmopolis, because as a business owner, I want police services. And what I'm telling you is with $3,000, you don't have enough to pay the gas bill to the police department. And that is the facts.
And we're very aware of that. Thank you.
So if you're aware of that, Mayor, then I would like Justin Spargo to offer that motion again. He had a second from Councilmember Ansich. And here's the crazy thing about that motion that was denied. You're denying information that's just information. All it is just information. I just want information, because as a business owner, I want to know that we're going to have police services making sure that our businesses aren't being broke in. Because you're 2 weeks away from not being able to pay the bills. And I would also implore you to hold a special meeting next week and to make some of these decisions, because if you don't make some tough decisions, you're not in operation next month. And as a business owner, I'm upset by that.
Comment?
Michelle Focus, 131 Alder Drive. I don't disagree that it would be helpful to have the numbers, but that is not a cure-all. I mean, you have to, so you're paying the severance for the officers and the chief. You're killing the unemployment cost again, and you're paying for the new contract. So how is that saving us in the short term anything at all? It's probably costing us more in the short term.
100%.
Okay, please be quiet when someone is talking, one at a time.
It's a good
I'm
question.
sorry, let me.
You bet.
And the other thing that the chief mentioned, you know, if we treat our department like that, we will never get them back. Not only the individuals we currently have, and we are extremely lucky to have, who is gonna come in 5 years from now wanna be chief if we do that to our department? We will never have a good police
But my
department
point is, we
again.
can't pay the department next month.
I get it, but
Yeah.
we can't pay the sheriff's department next month either.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's not, because if you can save by cutting any department, we don't have to use the police.
So we're
police
gonna
department.
stop, Kelly.
But
We're
if
gonna
you-
stop the conversation because it is public comment. It's not a debate. If you have a public comment, we're not debating this, then please, a public comment.
Kim Garna, 1623 Turnberry Street. I have a comment regarding Mill Creek. The last week after the snowstorm, all of the trees that fell down on Blue Slough, there's people gathering firewood there. I don't know if we could open that up. Can we do that?
We have 8 of them in the lake
Oh, okay,
and 2 across the creek.
okay.
There's no way that we're gonna let somebody go in there and try to do that. We're gonna have to figure out ways to get them back across the creek. Leave the ones over there that are there. Just too much of a hazard for a
Okay.
volunteer to come in and go cut firewood. 'Cause, I mean, these trees are like this and they're alder, so, and they're kinda hung up, so they'd be dangerous for anybody that doesn't know what they're doing.
Candace Marcus, 305 J Street. I'm not debating anything. I solely agree with Kelly. I am so disappointed that the fact that you, other than you, Justin and Jim, and a little bit with Kim, entertain the idea of going to the county. You at least let us know as citizens that you were interested in getting all of the results, not just an M&O or whatever. So on that, I applaud you. However, I am solely disappointed in the fact that it didn't pass, and I agree with Kelly. I think it needs to be brought up again and reopen it, because we don't have a choice.
Thank you. So someone, and I can show that.
Yeah.
Okay. So learning this process, for that to come back to the table, it would need to be someone who voted against it to support that, to bring that back to the table.
Motion to reconsider.
A motion to reconsider.
I'll make that motion to reconsider.
Thank you, Tim.
I second.
Second.
Now discussion again. Now we have discussion again. And I'm gonna speak that, again, you only get part of the story. It's just the way the system works. Discussion had been brought up and had been brought with numbers of hypothetical out there that the sheriff's department would charge us for a full-time officer here in Cosmopolis. He would still make calls, North River areas, wherever he had to, but this would be his residential home, and it would cost X amount. And right now, again, the numbers came flying out as this exorbitant amount that our police budget was, and the sheriff's department is gonna be a third of that budget. We gotta do this, or we gotta at least talk about it and bring it to the floor. And so in this discussion that went on up here, information was said, tell me more, let me understand more about it. If it's not factual, I'm not gonna come up here and tell you that they offered 200,000 and we're paying 800,000. I don't know them figures. And until I know more about it, I was not going to say that I think it's a good idea. So yes, I wanted more information. I didn't get as much as what I was hoping I would hear. And so then I voted no. That until you come back, I have the floor. Until you come back with good, solid, proven numbers, I can't support those types of issues. So that's where I changed my mind. Now, I truly agree, and I've said it over and over, that yes, we've got to find ways of finding revenue today. But if we don't start with any of these things, right, that one there, in my mind, I had already had the numbers somebody had came to me with. That wasn't enough for me to say I agree with it. And that was the first time I've done that. Other times I've said, sure, it don't cost us a penny, go find out the information. You got all the time in the world. Wait a minute, you don't have people. Now I'm adding more to your job when you can't do your job right now without the people you have. So there's all kinds of those things that enter into this. Now, I'll move on and we can take this vote again as a reconsider.
For my discussion, I think we already heard some great points in public comment about why I don't see this, even in the most rosy envisioning of what figures we get. This doesn't solve anything in the short term or the long term for the city of Cosmopolis. I don't have any fundamental opposition to getting the information if that's what, if the citizens feel that strongly about it. I just wouldn't get your hopes up that there's anything to find here.
But maybe there is, or maybe there's not.
I think we know that there isn't, but, I'm happy to do the diligence and support it. If that will give folks a sense of security that we're doing everything we can.
Call for the question.
So,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, all those opposed? Okay. So motion moved to look at the shelf department. So we will conduct a special meeting. And so Kelly, to you, I just want to say, we aren't sitting here with rosy glasses on. We're not sugarcoating anything. We have been having tough department heads meetings weekly. We have looked at a lot of things that we aren't disclosing to the public right now that probably you are totally unaware of. And so with that said, am I like sugarcoating? No, people have questions about the street light. My job is to give them that information, not costing the city anything, not costing public work. Jeff has to take the flakes down, that's it. Anything else? No. We have volunteers. This city does a lot on volunteers, not sugarcoating it. We couldn't do a lot of things that we do in the park on a city corridor without volunteers. That doesn't cost the city, and with grants, that doesn't cost the city anything. And so, yeah, we're gonna try to continue that, even as minimal as our budget is, because we're gonna take care of this community. So I'm not sugarcoating it, I'm not, but there is a lot of discussion happening behind the scenes that we haven't been able to bring to the table yet.
So can I respond? Sure. Since you addressed me.
A comment, yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but tonight's meeting is about the budget, right? We have the budget director giving us, as business owners and taxpayers in this community, a budget report. The budget report says we're gonna be $3,000 in the black at the end of the month. Next month, we're gonna spend anywhere from $160,000 to $180,000. So next month, you're gonna be negative $169,000 to $175,000. I don't know. When you're negative in the month, $175,000, no one here exists. And that's my point. My point is that we can talk about snowflakes, and we can talk about lighting, and we can talk about parks, and we can talk about all of that. But what I'm not getting as a business owner is recognition that we are at $3,000 in the black, and you spent $165,000 this month. Was that the number?
180.
180,000 this month. Well, what are we gonna spend next month? 180? And so my point is, as a business owner, I want law enforcement here in some manner. Law enforcement in this community is critical. It is not an option. And if we are 180,000 in the red and our city is not able to operate, then I want to know if the county can provide services to everyone in this room. God forbid they need to make a call.
Not for free.
Yes, not for free. And so we have to look at M&O, like Councilmember Skinner said, but we also have to look at what are we gonna do between now and 18 months if we were able to do an M&O budget, because we might not have funds for a police department. That's just the facts. We may not have funds for a police department. It's nothing against Heath, he's one of my good friends. I mean, I'm heartsick over all of this. I love the police officers, but we may not have one. And so we have to be prepared to start talking about, if we don't have a police department, then who's gonna provide services to these people in this room? That's the discussion that has to happen.
And it has been discussed.
It hasn't. No. It hasn't been discussed. And that's why I'm here tonight, and I don't often come to these meetings, is because I am afraid for the members in this community and for the businesses that they're not gonna have proper law enforcement because our budget won't allow it. We will not even have staff at City Hall. And so I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have to make these tough decisions, and I hope that the council, someone will move to have some type of emergency meeting next week.
And we just did that.
To discuss this further, to make some decisions.
We just did it. And I think everybody sitting here at this table, the department heads, the city administrator, Julie, and I, we've been looking at this daily. We are looking at everything. So for you to assume that's not happening,
No, I'm
we
not
appreciate your comments, but this is something that we've been looking at from day one. And so.
I'm not assuming you're not, I'm just saying that you're out of time.
Okay.
Cheryl, 825 and half Second Street. And let's make it perfectly clear, I know Jim knows this, but the only department in the city that brings money in is Public Works. They're the ones that bring in the cash money, the cash flow. They will be the only ones still working, because they work out of water, they work out of sewer, they work out in the, all of that good stuff. And the girls at City Hall will at least have a partial payment because they do the billing, they do all of that stuff. So you will have Public Works, but you won't have current fund people. That would be, if they're working in parks, they can't work in parks. They can't take trees down, they can't do mow lawns, they can't do anything. But Public Works will still be working, and they are the only ones that bring money into the city. There is no other department that does.
Thank you. It's been a very long meeting. I appreciate everybody's comment. It's, hey, Steve, we're going to,
Public comment or not?
Okay.
Yes?
yes.
Steve Davis, 825 Fifth Street. So I agree obviously with Kelly in the aspect that everything has to be on the table. And I appreciate council bringing it back up and going through it. I appreciate the council taking the time to understand that having more people in the process, Councilman Ansich said, hey, look, let's look at putting some more people on all these. I think we should have a couple of people on every committee because it gives you more people. It's just like the tree. I didn't even think about calling Asplin to come take down a tree, but somebody did. So the more people in the room, the more we're gonna have a better decision, a better outcome. We have to be respectful, we have to listen to each other, we have to do all of it has to be on the table. Right now, as we lose police officers, it's a huge, huge incumbents to our public safety. Chief Lane at the last few meetings talked about how his department did CPR for 27 minutes. Our fire department is struggling to get back, and I appreciate everybody that's working on that. Every volunteer, every minute they volunteer. The issue is that the majority of them don't live or work in the city, so they're not here to respond. They're working on that, but that's the facts, that's the truth. So what we have is our police officers that are helping to cover that void. And now we have far less of that. So all of us need to be worried about our own public safety in our community, in our neighborhood, in our household, to try to take some of the effort off of these guys. So what do we do now? We do exactly what we're doing. We put it all on the table, everything. We need to come up with $360,000 in a couple of months, just to stay afloat, realistically. I don't have the answer. I have a couple ideas. Parks, we're not gonna have anything to do in parks, but we're gonna have a lot of problems to solve in parks. So we still have, we've gotta have some meetings, we still gotta come up with solutions. So having a couple extra people in parks to help work on those solutions is all what it's about. It's about our community. It's about getting the volunteers, getting the community out and moving and doing what needs to happen.
Thank you, Steve, your time is up. We're going to have one more comment this evening.
Hi, Mary Carr, 305 D Street. I'm kind of a newcomer, but I'm 36 years here, but still feel like a newcomer. And I want to just ask Julie, this isn't to do, I want our police department and fire department, I'll just say that. But with the taxes changing to the state for unemployment.
Okay.
At some point, could we back out of that and go back to self?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can
because
switch back to reimbursable.
There could be a time, because most of the time they figure in a city or something like this, you have very little unemployment. So that's the reason that we have been the way we have been. But as you know, because of the business you being in accounting and stuff for years too, is that as people claim unemployment benefits, the rate you pay per hour
It's a percentage of wages, yes.
or to wages, Helen eyes the hours, but to wages, and it's all the city's burden because an employee does not pay into employment security. So that was my main thing, is looking down the road, if we get to where we're settled, and if at some point we may be able to go back to the other, because it probably in the long run would be better to do that when we're stable.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Appreciate each and every one of you, your input this evening, your comments, and there'll be information about the special meeting coming up. Thank you.
It's unemployment retroactive. So only go into effect